When I first found you, it was in 2011 or 2012 when you posted the Occupy Wall Street video, the I Am the 1%, where you went into the dragon's den, so to speak, and debated people for 2 hours. And what I was most surprised about was how contentious some of the people were and how angry they were at the entire situation. So what do you think they were angry about? And do you feel like it was misdirected?
Well, I mean, if you remember those days, the whole point of the protest was the financial crisis, the bailouts. People were losing homes or losing their home equity. And a lot of people were angered, particularly by the bailouts, because they saw Wall Street really getting the blame for the crisis, but then getting bailed out so that nobody was actually held accountable. Nobody was losing any money, or, nobody went to jail. So people were angry. But the whole purpose of my visit was to redirect that anger where it belonged, because the protesters shouldn't be upset with Wall Street for accepting the bailout. I mean, who wouldn't accept the bailout? They should be angry at the government for offering the bailouts in the first place. That was something that shouldn't have been done. There was no real constitutional authority for those programs. And, a lot of people may have rightly, partially, or even totally, in their minds, blamed Wall Street. And so why should they get a bailout? Why should it be heads they win, tails taxpayers lose?
Yeah.
If you make a bad bet, you should have to deal with the consequences. After all, when they were making a lot of money, they kept the profits. Therefore, if there's a loss, they should be responsible to pay that loss. Now, they didn't keep all the profits. They paid taxes. But the bailouts really dwarfed what they paid in taxes. So I just wanted people to understand that what was happening and what was upsetting them was not capitalism, that under capitalism, the banks would be allowed to fail. There would be no bailouts. In fact, if we had capitalism, the financial crisis wouldn't have happened. The conditions that led to the insolvency of many banks would never have developed if we had a free market, if we had capitalism. It was only government interference in the banking sector, in the housing and mortgage sector, that laid the foundation and made that crisis inevitable.
Do you feel like any of them made any strong arguments that maybe caused you to reconsider some of your points?
No. I mean, there were no real strong arguments. There was just some emotion. There were a lot of socialists there that really didn't understand capitalism or the free market. And so I was, trying my best to educate them. I don't know if I got any converts that were actually there that day at Zuccotti Park, but I do know for a fact that I managed to persuade a lot of people who watched any one of a number of the versions that made it on the YouTube, because there have been, well over 10 million views. Just, the one on my channel alone has about 5.5 million, but I didn't even put it up until maybe 5 to 7 years after it happened. Yeah. A lot of people still reach out to me to this day. I mean, I get emails from people who found that Occupy Wall Street video, and they're just letting me know how it changed their lives, how it maybe put them on the right path to do more research, but how they were very left-wing, very socialist-oriented before they watched the Occupy Wall Street. But now, as a result of having watched it and maybe some other research that video caused them to do, they've completely flipped. And now they're 180, and now they're free market, libertarian, pro-capitalism. So it did work in that respect. Even if I didn't convince, the 100 people that were crowded around me, I may have influenced thousands or tens of thousands of people who weren't there that day, but who saw the encounter on YouTube.
I remember I saw that video for the first time when I was in high school. And that was a very transformative time for me.
Thanks.
Because I was trying,
there you go.
Because I was trying to develop my own opinions and see okay, am I more pro-free market? Am I more pro-free government intervention? And I think that you explained it in such a simple way. And also, fortunately for you, unfortunately for people maybe looking for the middle of the road thing, you were talking to people, they seemed very uneducated. So it made your point come across extremely clearly. So I learned a lot about the free market from that. What would you say you learned from that experience?
Yeah,
maybe
there was
about
certainly
human nature.
Yeah, there was a big contrast that a lot of people pointed out if you look at the comments on YouTube, because a lot of it wasn't just what I was saying, but all the foolish things that the people in the audience were saying. And they were very arrogant too in their opinions. Like, they were there to, to tell me all the things that I didn't know. And it was also interesting that, I was there representing the 1%, we're the 99%, as if that gives them some type of virtuous position because they represent the majority, or at least they purport to speak for the majority. And so I was there representing the minority, the 1% versus the 99%, but trying to persuade them why the 99% really owes a debt of gratitude to the 1%, that their lives would be demonstrably worse off if it wasn't for the benefits that they get from the 1%. And maybe it's not, the people who are in the 1% may not have started out in the 1%, but they ended up there because they were able to create so much value for the 99%. They create all the goods and services that the 99% consume and take for granted, that all these goods and services are available. Sure, you have to pay for them, but you're happy to pay for them because your life is much better with these products than without them. Some people may regret the fact that they don't get them for free, that they have to pay. But in countries where you get stuff for free, you get nothing because there's nothing there. There's nothing produced. There needs to be an incentive to go out of your way to create and produce goods and services for other people. And capitalism provides that incentive. And though the people that create and own the capital benefit more than any individual consumer in society, the 99%, but collectively, the 99% benefit far more from the work and the efforts and the ingenuity of the 1% than the 1% themselves.